This podcast encourages and empowers you to create your own unique real story, develop your own unique real statement, and discover your own unique real self. The power is yours. Good night, Arthur Joseph. How are you doing on this wonderful, beautiful night?
I am exquisite, extraordinary, and I was just saying before our call, what a beautiful voice you have, and that's what in part inspires me to have a meaningful conversation with you.
Well, I do appreciate that. Do tell us, what part of the world are you in right now, Arthur?
In Los Angeles. This is home, but my bride and I are on the road probably 3+ months a year all over the globe. But here we're back home for the next couple of weeks.
Okay, all right. Sounds like fun. My wife and I were on the road for 3 months. It definitely is a relationship building activity, isn't it?
Oh, yes. And my bride and I have been together for 50 years. And
wow. So, is it 50 or 15?
50.
Wow. Congratulations. Wow.
Yes. So you have a lot to look forward to.
That sounds great.
Even when she wants to put you in the trash compactor.
Yeah, that happened a few times. Well, do tell us, my friend, which of your talents is responsible for us connecting at this specific time in history?
I created a company 53 years ago called Vocal Awareness. My vision is to change the world through voice. I'm a classical singer by training with a master's in voice, but I'm a communication strategist who teaches empowerment through voice. And I want all those who work with me to achieve their own enlightenment and enjoy their own empowerment. And thus, the purpose of our call is to help your listeners understand the reality that voice is power. Doesn't mean big, bombastic voice. It means genuine, authentic, integral voice and communication. The goal being sovereignty. I want your listeners to glean from this brief conversation how critically important it is in this day and age, especially, to be able to tap into what's truly possible. When we own our voice, we own our power.
Where did you learn that from?
I created this work. It's all trademarked and copyrighted.
Is there someone in your surroundings, be it your family, who was very potent, if you would, with their vocals?
No, interestingly enough. I teach, sociologists, Angel. You're asking really thoughtful, personal questions. I appreciate your listening. I knew when I was 4 that music was my life. I knew that at 12 that singing was its direction. And at 15, one of God's gifts to me was my first voice teacher, Mrs. Julia Kinsel. Mrs. Kinsel was about 75 and I'm 15. And in the middle of my lesson, she would let me behave in a really bizarre way, manically clamping my hands to my ears, saying, "Stop, no, I don't want to do it like that. I hear it this way." And she allowed this behavior, knowing something about me I didn't yet know. That when I hear a human voice, I hear who we are. It's a perfect imprint. And when you give me your voice, you give me who you are. So her permission helped me actually create fundamentally new form in communication. I started to say that sociologists notion that the greatest fear in society is public speaking. Now, it's completely bogus, but it's been at the top of the list for over 60 plus years. The actual fear are 2 fears: fear of abandonment and ownership of our power. So though I didn't have someone teach me about who was a singer or a musician in my family, my hero was my mother. I never had a father. And she became a role model for me because I saw her courage, her vision. She dragged me into this accordion studio at 4. And where did this come from, this vision of hers to give me music when we had barely any money to eat or pay rent with? And so when we, in daily life, we worry about what people think of us, Angel. Oh, how am I doing? I hope my audience approves. We're abandoning ourselves. I don't want us to need anyone else's approval of who we are. And when we go to claim us, it's often really scary for people to step in to what they're truly capable of doing for fear of what others might think. So vocal awareness is mastery through communication. And in that regard, everything I teach, Angel, embodies mind, body, spirit. And I teach great athletic stars in all sports. I teach great performers, renowned actors. And in one's skill set, one always has rituals to help them be focused in their skill set. And those rituals always have a spiritual component. Vocal awareness has 7 rituals. And they're fundamental to how we breathe, how we speak, how we prepare for that PowerPoint, for that sales call, to feel comfortable on the date, being genuinely who we are, not worrying about anything except the integrity of us.
So where's the best place for someone to connect with you to find out more about this?
Vocalawareness.com.
There we go. All right, my friend. Well, let's switch gears for a moment. Let me invite you, Arthur, into my time machine that is surrounded with beautiful, warm, blue Caribbean water. Arthur, what is your earliest childhood memory?
My earliest childhood memory was 2.5, when my mother took me to see a ballet movie called The Red Shoes. And this movie is such a famous movie. It's actually in the National Archives. It's one of the 100 best movies ever made.
Why do you think? Sorry.
It's a ballet film called The Red Shoes.
All right.
But who takes a child to a ballet movie when they're 2 years old?
Well, why do you think you remember that, though? Why do you think that memory is so clear?
It clearly had an impact on me. It's about art. It's about discipline. It's about courage. And it's as visceral for me today as, I recall it. I can feel myself in the theater, just like I can feel the accordion in my lap at 4.
How do you see that memory connecting to who you are today?
Ask me that again, Angel.
Sure. How do you see that memory connecting to who you are today?
I teach, Angel, that integrity and integration have the same root source. They mean wholeness. Art requires surrender. To yield or to give back is the root of that word. The integrity of vocal awareness requires far more of me than I would normally want to be. I don't just get to talk about doing this work. I have to embody this work. So I strive to always live in the gestalt and live on this linear thing. But I suspect that that this is only the construct that we function within, but life is not linear. It is always what I call a hologram. It is always whole. It is always a reflection of a whole. So this memory was, I'm 72 years old. This memory was from 70 years ago. It's as fresh today as it was 70 years ago because it's all timeless. Time is only a construct that we use to define ourselves on this linear plane. But I live in a different way.
That's amazing. I love it. Love it. All right. All right. If we fast forwarded to when you were 12 years old, what was your favorite song?
A favorite song? I had lots of favorite songs. I people ask me that kind of question. I can't say favorites, like who is your favorite singer or your favorite book or play.
It's cool. You're not the first. I'm sure you wouldn't be the last.
There are many great influences musically for me. And I can see myself when I'm 12, living in a certain apartment building where I grew up with a big bay window and playing my record player and wearing the grooves out, playing certain songs and singers, performing to this window like it was a mirror, envisioning myself becoming a singer.
Wow.
And so, many children have this type of fantasy, and mine was doing it there in my living room. And then we fast forward about 6 years, and I earned my performing union cards at 18 when I was doing theater, nightclubs, and some television appearances as part of a singing group. And then we fast forward to my early 30s, where I was the vocal director in the original film Annie 40 plus years ago. And the sixth ritual of the 7 in vocal awareness is pay attention, deeper listening. I always listen, frankly, profoundly deeply. And I always had images of doing this movie, even though I thought the musical was kind of banal. A voice kept coming up in my head, Annie, Annie, Annie. And so I had a 3 or 4 year tenure with this movie. And but then on top of that, I trained broadcasters all over the world, and corporate executives and lay people, and ... I teach empowerment. I want us to all have the keys to the kingdom.
That's great.
What do you do?
Well, I do a few things. I speak to people from all over the world, and then I go meet them. So it's so funny that my phone was ringing as well in the background. I think my wife got it. It's funny that yours would ring
as did well. My bride get hers.
Yeah, it's amazing, isn't it? It's like you in the bay window, the mirror effect, right?
Yep.
All right, my friend. Well, we've arrived at our destination. But before we get off of this time machine, Arthur, there's a small declaration form. So it's yes or no, possibly a bit more. We're going to move pretty quickly. Are you ready, Arthur?
Born
ready. Love it. Arthur, have you chosen someone to pass on your skills to?
Working on that very issue right now.
All right. You said you're married to a beautiful bride for 50 years, right? Do you have any children?
We have 2 sons.
All right. Do you believe in God?
Pardon?
Do you believe in God?
Of course. Do you believe in God?
I do as well, yes.
But I also believe that you can define God any way you want, and God does not need to have that particular identification. We can refer to source or something else, but there is certainly this higher power. I just want to be able to help people relate to it in a way that is comfortable for them.
Do you have an inner circle of friends?
Absolutely.
Do you watch TV for more than 3 hours a day?
No.
How about 3 hours a week?
Yes.
What about screen time, the phone and the computer? Is it more than 8 or less than 8 hours a day?
What interesting questions. Far less.
Okay. If you had to share with us, my friend, your own unique real statement, a statement that represents Arthur Joseph, what would you say that is?
I strive to live in the integrity of the work, capital W. My day begins at 3 a.m. with prayer and meditation for 45 minutes to an hour. And I've been following this process and don't miss a day for over 50 years.
Wow.
So I strive to live the honesty of who I am.
That's amazing. Wow. Arthur, this has been a great pleasure, my friend. Before you leave, is there anything else you'd like to share with our amazing audience?
Yes. There is an offering that I made available, and then if you don't have the hashtag information, my team can send it to you, because there's one of my programs that I made available especially for you at a 50% discount. That really is a way to work with me in virtual. It's a video program that teaches so many aspects of vocal awareness. Most importantly, in this particular course, how to make voice visual. And if you don't have it, I will make it available to you. But it's a special offering for a limited time that I would love your team to know about if you would like.
Definitely. We'll definitely plug that into the show notes of the podcast. Arthur, thank you, my friend. Thank you for being on What is Inspired by 12-Minute Convos with Angel Jones.
Thank you for your kindness.
You are welcome. You are welcome.
This segment has been brought to you by Amazon Enterprise.